Puma brand. Puma SE is a German multinational corporation which designs and manufactures athletic and casual footwear, apparel, and accessories. Headquartered in Herzogenaurach, Bavaria, Germany, Puma is the third largest sportswear manufacturer in the world. The company was founded in 1948 by Rudolf Dassler (1898–1974). In 1924, Rudolf and his brother Adolf Adi Dassler had jointly formed the company Gebrüder Dassler Schuhfabrik. Dassler Brothers Shoe Factory. The relationship between the two brothers deteriorated until they agreed to split in 1948, forming two separate entities, Adidas and Puma. Following the split, Rudolf originally registered the newly established company as Ruda, derived from Rudolf Dassler, as Adidas was based on Adi Dassler, but later changed the name to Puma. Puma's earliest logo consisted of a square and beast jumping through a D, which was registered along with the company's name. In 1948, Puma's shoe and clothing designs feature the Puma logo and the distinctive form strip, which was introduced in 1958. Christoph Dassler was a worker in a shoe factory, while his wife Pauline ran a small laundry in the Franconian town of Herzogenaurach, 20 kilometers (12.4 miles) from the city of Nuremberg. After leaving school, their son, Rudolf Dassler, joined his father at the shoe factory. When he returned from fighting in World War I, Rudolf was trained as a salesman at a porcelain factory, and later in a leather trading business in Nuremberg. In July 1924, Rudolf and his younger brother, Adolf, nicknamed Adi, founded a shoe factory. They named the new business Gebrüder Dassler Schuhfabrik, Dassler Brothers Shoe Factory, which was the only business at the time that manufactured sports shoes. The pair started their venture in their mother's laundry. At the time, electricity supplies in the town were unreliable, and the brothers sometimes had to use pedal power from a stationary bicycle to run their equipment. In 1927, they moved into a separate building. The brothers drove from Bavaria to the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin with a suitcase full of spikes and persuaded United States sprinter Jesse Owens to use them. The first sponsorship for an African American, Owens won for gold medals. Business boomed. The Dasslers were selling 200,000 pairs of shoes annually before World War II. Both brothers joined the Nazi Party, but Rudolf was a keen Nazi who applied to join and was accepted into the Gestapo. They produced boots for the Wehrmacht. A growing rift between the brothers reached a breaking point during a 1943 Allied bomb attack. Adi and his wife climbed into a bomb shelter that Rudolf and his family were already in. "Here are the bloody bastards again," Adi remarked, apparently referring to the Allied warplanes. But Rudolf, due to his apparent insecurity, was convinced his brother meant him and his family. When Rudolf was later picked up by American soldiers and accused of being a member of the Waffen-SS, he was convinced that his brother had turned him in. After increasingly different views of how to run the business, the brothers split the business in 1948. Rudolf moved to the other side of the Ourcq River to start his own company. Adolf started his own company using a name he formed using his nickname Adi and the first three letters of his last name Das to establish Adidas. Rudolf created a new firm that he called Ruda, from R.U. and Rudolf and Dowen Dassler. A few months later, Rudolf's company changed its name to Puma Schuhfabrik. Rudolf Dassler, Puma and Adidas entered a fierce and bitter rivalry after the split. The town of Herzogenaurach was divided on the issue, leading to the nickname. The town of Bentneck's people looked down to see which shoes strangers wore. In the first football match after World War II in 1948, several members of the West Germany national football team wore Puma boots, including the scorer of West Germany's first post-war goal, Herbert Brodensky. Rudolf developed a football boot with screw-in studs, called the Super Atom, in collaboration with people such as West Germany's national coach, Sepp Herberger, At the 1952 Summer Olympics, 1500 meters runner Josie Barthel of Luxembourg won Puma's first Olympic gold in Helsinki, Finland. At the 1960 Summer Olympics, Puma paid German sprinter Armin Harry to wear Pumas in the 100-meter sprint final. Harry had previously worn Adidas products and approached Adolf for compensation. However, Adidas declined the request. Despite winning a gold medal in Pumas, Harry chose to wear Adidas during the medal ceremony, surprising the two Dassler brothers. Harry seemingly aimed to benefit financially from both brands, but Adolf was infuriated to the extent of banning the Olympic champion. During the 1968 Olympics Black Power Salute, Puma sponsored African-American athletes Tommy Smith and John Carlos. After having won gold and bronze in the 200 meters, respectively, took to the podium with their Puma suede shoes in hand and bowed their heads and raised their black gloved fists in silent protest during the playing of the national anthem, an act meant to stand up for human rights and to stand up for Black Americans. A few months prior to the 1970 FIFA World Cup, Armin Dassler, Rudolf's son of Puma, and his cousin Horst Dassler, AD's son of Adidas, sealed an agreement, which was dubbed the Pell Pact. This agreement dictated that Pell would be out of bounds for both Adidas and Puma, feeling that a bidding war for the most famous athlete in the world would become too expensive, only for Puma to break the pact and sign him. In addition to paying Pell a percentage of Puma King boot sales, Puma paid him $120,000 to $85 million in 2022 to tie his laces prior to Brazil's quarter-final game against Peru to advertise their boots. 23-24. An idea conceived by Puma's representative Hans Henningsen. Pell stopped the referee from starting the game with a last-second request to tie his shoelaces. And with the camera panning in on Pell, the Puma King boots were broadcast to a global audience, generating enormous publicity for the brand. The most notable event in the Dassler brothers' feud, the breaking of the Pell Pact, outraged Horst, and future peace agreements were called off. The Puma deal for Pell was praised as a shrewd marketing move, and many business experts credit the rivalry and competition between the two companies for transforming sports apparel into a highly lucrative industry. During the 1972 Summer Olympics, Puma provided shoes for the Ugandan 400 meters hurdles champion, John Akibua, after Akibua was forced out of Uganda by its military government. Puma employed him in Germany. Eventually, Akibua returned to Uganda. Puma launched the Puma Clyde in 1973, a basketball shoe based on the suede, designed for basketball player Walt Clyde Frazier. It gained wide popularity and became significant in the old school hip-hop and skate punk subcultures. Puma became a public company in 1986, and thereafter was listed on the Börse München and Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Its first profit since the IPO was registered in 1909 for in May 1989. Rudolf's sons Armin and Gerhard Dassler sold their 70% stake in Puma to Swiss business Kosa Liebermann SA. The company acquired Scandinavian Trettern Group in 2001, later sold to Authentic Brands Group in 2015. For the fiscal year 2003, the company had revenue of 1.27 billion euros, and majority shareholder Monarchy Regency sold its shareholdings to a broad base of institutional investors. In February 2007, Puma reported that its profits had fallen by 26% to 30.8 million euros, $43 million, 22 million pounds. During the final 3 months of 2006, most of the decline in profits was due to higher costs linked to its expansion. Sales rose by more than a third to 480.6 million euros. In early April, Puma's shares rose 29.25 euros per share, or about 10.2%, to 315.24 euros per share. On the 10th of April, the French conglomerate PPR, which became Kering in 2013, announced that it had bought a 27% stake in Puma. clearing the way for a full takeover. The deal valued Puma at €5.3 billion. PPR said that it would launch a friendly takeover of Puma, worth €330 a share. Once the acquisition of the smaller stake was completed, the board of Puma welcomed the move, saying it was fair and in the firm's best interests. As of July 2007, PPR owned over 60% of Puma stock. In 2008, Melody Harris-Gensbach was appointed Deputy Chief Executive Officer. Designer and artist Hussein Chalayan became creative director, and Puma acquired a majority stake in Chalayan's fashion business. In 2010, Puma acquired Cobra Golf and took over bodywear and socks company Dobotex the following year. In July 2011, the company completed a conversion from an Aktiengesellschaft German Public Limited Company to a Societas Europea, the European Union-wide equivalent, changing its name from Puma AG Rudolf Dassler Sport to Puma SE. At the same time, Franz Kopta replaced the long-serving Jochen Zietz as the firm's chief executive officer CEO. With Zietz becoming chairman, the company has been led by former football professional Björn Gulden since the 1st of July 2013. Arne Frunt was appointed CEO in November 2022. Since 2018, the boycott, divestment and sanctions (BDS) movement has called for a boycott of Puma over its sponsorship of the Israel Football Association and demanded that the company end complicity with the Israeli colonial and apartheid regime. The BDS campaign also stated that Puma contracted with an Israeli distributor operating in illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Puma will end its sponsorship of the Israel national football team in 2024. In 2024, Kering, a French luxury group, owned approximately 86% of PUMA's total share capital. Kering's largest shareholder, Artemis SA, is the holding company of the Pinault family and controls Kering. About Puma announced a plan to distribute approximately 70% of PUMA's shares to Kering's shareholders, reducing Kering's shareholding in Puma to approximately 16%. Artemis SA would then become a direct and long-term shareholder with approximately 29% of PUMA's share capital.